If in getting to the bottom of things, whether by spiritual or scientific exploration, we have the conviction that what we will find is order and not disorder, creation and not chaos, how do you account for tornadoes striking Moore, Oklahoma, and wreaking the kind of devastation that they have, taking the innocent lives of men, women, and children? What's orderly about that? Predictable, dependable. And where is God in the middle of all that? First, the bad answers, if you will permit me. These come from both the religious right and the irreligious left. The one believes that true faith and being faithful to God somehow means attributing to God everything that happens. Right? They can't abide by the idea that something random might happen in God's creation, something God didn't control or orchestrate. If God created the world and is all-powerful, having ordered it with wisdom, then even tornadoes somehow, mysteriously, are the product of the direct hand of God seeking to do something of God's inscrutable purpose. Now, usually this takes the form of saying that this is God's punishment on the people who live in that particular region where the disaster struck. So what insurance companies benignly call an act of God, right, because they don't want to assign human blame to it, well, these theologians would go ahead and say it is in fact an act of God, and we can go ahead and assign human blame to it because of thus and such. Thus, it's divine retribution for sin, and at the same time, be warned, all of you, because the same thing could happen to you. On the other extreme are those who can find no meaning at all in natural events, because there's no place for God to be involved in nature and in the world at all. Chaos is just a part of life. And things happen, good or bad, to people, good or bad, whether or not they have acted good or bad. There's no meaning to be found and no purpose to be uncovered in it unless we can determine maybe some human blame for, like, climate change that produces these wild weather patterns or some such thing. But there's certainly no need for divine explanations or even contributions in a closed universe. There's no hidden hand to be found at work in it, and no sense looking for sense among nonsense. Now, in the effort to get to the bottom of things, because I don't think that does either one of those, let's look back at Lady Wisdom in Proverbs 8. According to this, creation as a whole makes sense as a whole. It holds together in dependable ways, and God is present in every part of it, and never apart from it. All right? But that doesn't mean that in parts of it, random things will not happen. When God made the world, God ordered it against the chaos, created space for space to exist. But God made the world in radical freedom and abides by that decision still. So natural disasters and genetic mutations are in a way a kind of corollary in nature of free will in human beings, you see. We who have a choice in the matter often don't make the right choice. And what happens in nature is sometimes similar in that things happen that are not God's intention. In other words, in the natural realm of earth, wind, and fire, a good band, by the way, right? Things can go off the rails, just as they can by human beings who make bad choices and decisions. And in every case, God is as deeply affected by all of it, even as we are, because God is not away from it, but in it. And so when you look for God in the world, you should look for how God is at work to reorder the world after the disorder.